It's starting.
Thank you. All right. So here's our agenda today. So we're going to follow up on one of our December discussions and kind of give some information there. We're going to have a little bit of an overview on member handbook survey that we have been working on for our from the ENC team. And then we're going to have a discussion from Stephen White for MMIS and primary care provider information. We have another topic listed here for member contact information from one. Looks like we're waiting for a presenter on that, but I'm going to open it up and see if anyone has joined that is going to be presenting on that particular topic. Okay, well, hopefully we'll have someone join later who will be doing that one. And then we have our normal roundtable and announcements. Okay, so welcome packet follow-up. So we had some feedback and some requests from some of our CCO partner friends with regards to the welcome packets. And so one of the primary requests that we had was with regards to an earlier timeline in order to facilitate or be able to adequately account for production and printing that the CCOs have to go through. So we took this back as a team. And so realizing that the current timeline and due dates are in contract, which takes a little bit more to change. But we can work to accommodate individual CCO requests in earlier approvals. So what we've come up with are a couple of different options that we think might be able to help. So just a reminder for those of you who may submit materials or who are knowledgeable about the process for our welcome packets. We post the criteria August 1st, and that's 90 days before the actual due date for those to be submitted. But one of the things that we can look at doing is to try to post guidance and criteria documents earlier in July to kind of extend that time frame if that's acceptable for you guys. And then we have generally the CCO you guys submit your welcome packet by November 1st. That's the generalized deadline. However, you can submit it earlier. And so we have the new deliverable tab in the portal for submission, and you can submit it earlier than that so that we can get working on it sooner and therefore get back to you. So that's also an option that we came up with regards to trying to ameliorate some of the timeline squish. And then we will start our reviews as soon as we receive it. So that generally we start it on November 1st and we have 30 days for that review. But again, if we move that a little bit earlier, if we make it a little bit more flexible for you all to submit information, then we can start material reviews before that time frame as well. So basically as soon as you submit your files or as soon as the CCO submits their files. So those are some of the options that we came up with regards to maybe helping with some of the, I guess, timeline squish, as it were. And again, that's because the timeline is outlined in contract right now, which is harder to change. However, this is kind of a workaround that we can do in the interim to be able to get things approved and published and then get back to you sooner. Yes, Sam, it looks like. Hands up. Or not?
Sorry, that was a mistake.
Oh, okay. No worries. Any other question? Lisa, yeah, go ahead.
So now is that new this year? Or going forward, the fact that you'll look at it earlier, that'll be new going forward because that didn't occur this year.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
So this is
Okay.
this is us taking the feedback that you guys gave to us, especially with regards to that short time frame. And honestly, it will help us too. We have other reviews to do as well. So yes, as of this coming year, these are the kind of the workarounds that we came up with.
And my feedback for that is just,
Yep.
and I know it's hard because we're all, you're kind of in the same boat we are, but to get those changes, because I know all the way up until, sometimes even weeks before those, you have changes that you're sending out.
Mm,
Because the biggest thing is, and I think I heard this voice at the last meeting is, especially when we have to get that sent for translation and then sent to a print company, because the print company's got to be able to set it up, and it takes them a good bit of time and back and forth. So there's a lot of back and forth. So even once we get it all right, it's still got to go, like I said, for that translation. This year, I was a little surprised that our handbook took almost 30 days for
mm.
translation this year. That was not true in the past. We've used the same vendor. So again, just so you know kind of where we're sitting, if it takes 30 days just to get it translated, that's still a really kind of tight time turnaround.
Wow. Yeah.
But I appreciate this. This is great. Thank you.
Yeah. And thank you guys for sharing too. Again, this is part of why we have MEOC. This is part of why we're trying to, create this dialogue, is to understand from your points of view, from what you guys are running into, and then be able to appropriately account for that where necessary. So thank you guys so much for your feedback on that. But yeah, we can try this as long as you guys are okay with that. And by you guys, I'm colloquially referring to CCO folks who generally submit materials for review to our department. Does this sound good to you? Is this something that you'd like for us to offer this year?
I would.
Any other questions, comments, respectful dissent around this particular topic? Right. Thank you, Kelly. Yeah. Okay. Well, great. Well, then we will move forward with that as a plan for this year for submission of materials. And again, we are constantly learning and improving, and we want to understand your processes as well. Lisa, that was particularly helpful to hear about the translation taking a fair amount of time, which is not something that, of course, we knew about or would be able to account for. So having this dialogue and having that communication about kind of some of the barriers that you guys are facing as well is extraordinarily helpful. So thank you so much for providing an insight to that. And we'll go ahead and move forward with announcing some of those changes so that you guys can submit earlier. And then therefore we can start working on them sooner. So that we can do this workaround until we're able to update a contract to maybe make that a more permanent change. Great. Okay, the next topic we have is with regards to the member handbook survey. So I'm going to invite any of my team members to go ahead and step in to chat about this as well, because they've been working very diligently, hands-on with regards to this. But one thing that we've been working on, we may have mentioned it in prior meetings, is that we are wanting to get some feedback with regards to the overall member handbook and kind of its effectiveness, how it's serving members, how we can improve it. and to move forward on potentially making any changes that from feedback that we hear. And we also thought that this would be particularly helpful for our CCO partners in terms of what we might learn from it for future materials, for potential changes, for understanding what our members need holistically and across the board. So right now we have a QR code that's been included in our handbook template. And so this is something that we can change on the back end. So the QR code remains the same, but we can change the information on the background with regards to the survey. And so it basically will say, hey, this is what we're asking for. We're going to have a list of questions to gauge the effectiveness, the usage of the handbook as it stands now. And then what we want to do is to be able to share those results at MEOC at this meeting, and be able to provide a glimpse of what information we've received, and then of course be able to appropriately act on that for any changes that may be required in the future. And really make sure that this is a valuable tool for both our members and for our CCO partners, especially considering how much time, effort, energy, money, production costs account for the handbook as well. So we want to make sure that, with all of that, are we getting, are our members getting what they need from that? If not, what is it that we need to change? So this is something that we've been working on a little bit in the background and are wanting to do. So initially, what we plan to do for this particular survey is to have it in 2 languages, so just English and Spanish. Now, we will include taglines for the top 15 languages so that our members know how to request the survey in another language or format, so we can do that. And then we can translate it into the top 15 languages. But initially, we're launching it English and Spanish. All survey font is at least 14 point and 18 point for headlines. It has important information and taglines there. And then we will, as soon as we've finalized the draft of the survey, because we're still working on some of those questions, rewording them, plain language, ascertaining what specifically we would be the best avenues to look for in terms of feedback from folks. We will review that at this meeting, and we'll also try to be present in other meetings that we have for interest groups that we work with. So for example, CPOP, so our community partner outreach program, ombuds, and those feedback teams, and the client services unit, just so that we can make sure that we're hearing voices across the board in that before we launch. So this is okay. Sorry, I was reading the comments here as well. So Kelly, for your translation into Russian as well, for in advance, I think we can work on that. Yeah. That's a great point though. Can Kelly or any other CCO, are there other languages that we should consider primarily that you see in your CCO that require translation? If you guys think of any, please add it to the chat, or you can add your comments in where we're requesting some feedback. So on this slide, you'll see, and then one of our team members will go ahead and add those links here into the chat. But we'll have basically you can add comments or feedback for us on the survey via those links. You can also preview the survey as we have it now at that link. And then we have a mark for if you're a CCO or if you're an OHA staff member, because we know that we have a mix of folks that come to this MEOC meeting. And thank you, Brisna. Okay. Great, Kelly. Thank you. Got it. But yes, if you could provide us feedback for this survey. Again, this survey is meant for our members for gaining some information or some feedback on the member handbook. And if there's something that you'd like to see that we haven't included in the draft survey, please let us know. And those are the links where you can preview the survey as well. But we would like to have those comments added by the 30th of January if we can. So please add your feedback by January 30th. Any other questions for us with regards to this last topic on the survey that we're including in the member handbook? Okay. So next is CCO discussion, MMIS, and primary care provider information, which will be presented by Stephen White. This is normally our CCO spotlight time, and so just wanted to acknowledge that, but we have this discussion and looking forward to having Stephen present. Stephen, are you available?
I am here. Can you hear me, Sarah?
Yes, great. Thank you.
All right. Well, and thanks for having me. Thanks for inviting me here. Stephen White, he, him pronouns. I am the CCO Services Manager here in the Medicaid division, going on month 9, I believe, in this position. For those of you who might not know what CCO Services means, if you ever interact with our CCO account representatives, that's the team that I get to work with every day and support them as they support you all. The issue that we're talking about today is really going to be less of a presentation, I think, and more hopefully of a discussion or at least some information sharing from you all regarding an issue that I think predates me in terms of issues that CCOs have brought up that they are hoping for some help or some solutions for. And so I'll talk a little bit just to kind of share my understanding of where we're at, but then also I've got some questions for you all that I'm hoping you can chime in on so that I make sure I understand what the issue is and what we might be looking at going forward as I think about whether this is something we might be able to help address. So with that, next slide, please. So just quick background to get us on the same page. And again, this is what sort of my basic understanding is that, right now members are assigned a primary care provider after they are enrolled in a CCO, but in some cases, members already have primary care providers. And sometimes that can create confusion on the part of the CCOs as you all are trying to coordinate care, and certainly on the part of members as well. And so there is some gaps and maybe some extra costs that get put in there. And the sort of one of the sort of challenges, and I think what some people see as an opportunity is the question is, can we get PCP primary care provider information into MMIS so it can be shared with CCOs, through their 834 forms. So next slide. There we go. Yeah, and so like I just said, if we had that information, it would be great. We'd be able to share it. But of course, that is easier said than done. Next slide, please. And just some issues that, when I checked in with some folks on our side of the fence on this too, changing anything in MMIS, as I'm sure a lot of you know and appreciate, is a pretty big effort. And so at any given time, we have many competing priorities for what we call change requests, what going in, adding a field, doing other things as well. And so the first thing was like, a reminder from our systems folks that doing something like this, we would put in a request, we would wait and see if the powers that be are able to prioritize this when they look at all of the change requests that are being made for MMIS. And then there's a long process where we would actually have to change MMIS to accommodate a new data field and then do the other things to, get it out to you all in the 834. So all that to say, long story short, is I think it would be a multi-year effort, and again, even if it gets approved for this to happen. And so we tend to look at these changes as a really sort of a need to have versus a, nice to have. And so that's something I'm interested in hearing a little bit more about. So that I understand kind of where it falls on that continuum of kind of necessity and impact on members. In addition to getting it in there, there's always the challenge with any new data field where we have to keep the data up to date and make sure that it's accurate, because it's not going to be helpful to you all if it's not accurate. And so, that's something else that we would need to think about as we do think about this. So those are really basic ones. My guess is you all have some sense of those issues and awareness, but the other thing that somebody pointed out too is, not that this would fully resolve the issues, but one issue to possibly consider is whether or not there would be an opportunity to at least partially address this issue when we do transition of care for members as they move from one CCO to another. It wouldn't be the getting the information into the 834, but it would be an opportunity for CCOs to provide that information, from the outgoing CCO to the incoming CCO to have that information going forward for a particular member. Again, that doesn't solve all of the issues, but it might help alleviate some of this. So just some basic context. And then on the next slide, I have some questions that I'm hoping to hear from you all. And certainly if there are other issues that you want to talk about as well, please feel free to share. But I would be interested in getting some responses to this. So again, just so I can make sure I'm better understanding the issue as well. First question for you CCO folks, how often do you see situations where members experience a gap in care due to PCP assignment issues? I don't necessarily know I need an exact number, but in general sense of magnitude, what are we looking at here? Is it a regular occurrence, an issue, or how would you describe it? Anyone? Perhaps the issue has magically disappeared and we don't have it anymore. I think, again, what I'm hoping just to hear from you all is some sense of, kind of just how much of a burden we feel this is, what sort of impact it is having on members too. So if these questions are not inspiring you to provide particular feedback related to those questions, please, I would love to hear anything from any of you who's willing to share just how this is impacting you or your members. Sheila, thank you for stepping forward.
I could see I couldn't do anything.
Oh.
It's not necessarily that we receive or that members necessarily have the gap in coverage, because they do, or the gap in PCP care, because they do, even if they're not assigned to the PCP, they think they're still assigned, that they can still see their PCP, or unfortunately they do access services at an ED or urgent care. So what we want to do is just make sure that we can get them assigned to their current PCP, so there's or get them to a PCP, so that there isn't an issue with care management. Correct. So it's like, we don't want them to be receiving their services at an ED or at a urgent care, because that's not the best place for them to be able to track them, to be able to help them, and be able to get them care management. So I think that's part of it. We do, we get these members assigned as soon as we can to a PCP. They usually will let us know if that is not their PCP. The problem is still with some address issues, right? Making sure these members are getting their, I think that's going to be on the agenda later maybe, but making sure these members are getting their actual information. So I think that's part of it. I think the challenge is still a bit of an address issue, updating addresses, getting these members assigned to either their current PCP or a PCP in a very timely manner, to prevent, because if they're having an ongoing health issue, we don't want them getting their care with an ED, because it's just not the best place for them, right? So that's our biggest barrier. If or maybe their current PCP isn't even contracted, we want to let them know as soon as possible, so that we can help them and case manage them as soon as that's feasible.
Great, very helpful. Thank you. Lisa.
Sure.
I would love to see that effort continue. I don't think, kind of what Sheila was saying, I don't think we don't really see a big gap in services, because the members who are actively, participating with their provider, they're going to keep seeing that provider. It's kind of those ones that get lost, that haven't been, and seem to get lost unless they're, have somebody paying attention to that. But it would be best practice for us, absolutely. I think that would definitely be best practice for us to have that PCP knowledge, and then we could, instead of, again, signing them to somebody new, and you have members who'll just kind of sit back and be like, oh, okay, I guess I'm going to a new doctor now. So, so I don't want to say there's a huge sense of urgency to it, but especially if you're saying that would take quite some time to come to, the final product, I would love to see that, because again, I think best practices, we should know that. We should have that information. We should be making sure that we're sending out, we're assigning to the appropriate provider if they do have one. So again, I don't know that it's like up on the urgent list of a lot of the things we're talking about, especially, I know Sheila mentioned addresses, and I know that's always a challenge. But yeah, but if it's going to take that long, I would love to see that. I think that, like I said, I think that's best practice of information that we should be having, and we should be looking at and using. So thank you.
Yeah, great. Thank you for that, Lisa. And yeah, it is something too. And we'll certainly keep it on our list of desired changes to have, and ones that we think would be helpful. And in some cases, depending on what we're changing in MMIS, maybe it's something where we're able to combine it with another change. But that exceeds my technical ability to know whether that might be an option going forward. But I'll certainly make sure to keep it on our list, and to when I check in with our business systems unit folks, to make sure that we don't lose sight of this one. All right, unless anybody has anything else, thank you very much for that. I really appreciate it, and I'll keep you posted if I hear anything more, if it looks like we're able to get some movement on this. But really, really appreciate the time, and back to you, Sarah.
Thank you, Stephen. Okay, so our next topic has to do with it's another CCO discussion topic, so similar to what Stephen just put forward for member contact information from the one system. Now, I am not sure, it says TBD on this, so I'm wondering who was planning on facilitating this discussion. Was there someone on the call that was planning on doing that? Okay. Mystery item. All right. Well, it looks like this kind of goes to something similar, which was, again, what Stephen just brought up, in terms of how we can collaborate best to get the most updated, accurate information, and streamline operations, especially with the existing systems that we have. So I am not sure. We can walk through what this topic is and see if we can capture some feedback. And then, yeah, I am not sure who owns this, but I'm happy to, you know, have the conversation. So let's do it. It looks like the file that CCOs received does not include member email addresses. Contact information, email and phone numbers are captured in the one eligibility system if the primary household provides one. But this field isn't mapped to the 834. So it sounds like that's a gap between that communication channel. This is making it challenging for CCOs to communicate effectively with members, and email information is not being sent from one, nor is the 834 reporting this data. Interesting. Lisa, yes.
I just wanted to point out when we had the conversation, if I remember correctly, when they were talking about the phone numbers, one of the things was the cell phone wasn't identified. That was one of the asks specifically with that contact information, that the cell phone would be identified, because we had the conversation about we're able to, text the members, but you can't really do a texting campaign or certain things with texting without knowing that that's what number you can text. So I think one of the asks was to specify a cell phone, which was the cell phone.
Ah, okay. Thank you for that. Thank you. Okay, now I think I'm starting to remember some of this conversation. I appreciate you jogging my memory there. Dana, yeah.
It's Dana with Willamette. And I think we also did talk about email addresses because there was, I think, discussion around maybe the non-discrimination notice or something that was discussed as an option to send to patients via email rather than having it go out in letters, because I think it was getting to where letters were, um, several pages long, and mailing those out was becoming very expensive. And the question had come up about whether or not those kinds of notices could be uh, transmitted electronically if we had email addresses. So this is, I mean, another one of those really long-standing issues. We've been trying to get member email addresses for a very long time. And then
Yeah.
now that one has them, the question is, how do we get that to the plan? So um, I think it's true for both email addresses and for cell phone numbers if it's different than a main household number. So maybe just in general, the discussion is, you know, how can we get this information to plans?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, Bruce, could you move forward just one? So it looks like this might be a longer type of solution, or there might be some required work on the back end to make certain changes for this to go into effect. But um, it sounds like there would have to be an MMIS change request, and then it would move through a standardized review system for approval and prioritization. And then it would have to be reviewed with other requests for the subsystems it touches, priority given to it based on other competing projects. So it sounds like that's the background of maybe action steps that would need to be taken on OHA's end with our partners and technology services as well. And then, Brisna, can you move forward? Sounds like the request would be mapping member contact information to the 834 in the future. And then our discussion point would be, how currently is your organization gathering member contact information for emails and phone numbers, particularly based on the scope of this? And then how are you engaging with your members? So anyone want to kind of share what the current process is in their CCO for this topic? Go ahead, Lisa.
So one of our primary tools is when we do the health risk assessment survey
Ooh,
is
okay.
gathering that. We've put that on there so we collect that information at that time.
Okay.
So and again, how do we engage with them? It would
Yeah.
be based on their preference. You know, what is their preference? What are they comfortable with? I do wanted to state on this request, the other one I said it's not necessarily the urgent. To me, this one feels really urgent because
Okay.
again, this comes down to, you know, what we're hearing from the CACs, what we're hearing from our members. You know, they want that electronic communication. You know, maybe all they have is their cell phone. We have a lot of homeless members. So again, it's, you know, the more I keep digging into figuring out, you know, how can we really get to our members? How can we get to those hard to reach populations? It just really comes back to that electronic communication, especially, you know, whether it be email and phone, because that may be, like I said, the only thing that they have. So
Yeah.
I'd say it's pretty urgent ask, at least as far as my CCO is concerned, I feel.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
I will second what Lisa just said. This is Kelly from Trillium.
Do you have, so I'm curious on the back end there too. Lisa, you had mentioned the best way to get in touch with them. Do you guys have, I'm not sure of what it looks like on your end, but is there like a toggle that indicates preferred, you know, electronic communication or preferred cell communication, or what do you currently have?
Well, we're actually in the process of kind of working that out
Okay.
because I unfortunately I was not aware until you guys let us know and announced it that them giving the permission for the one system was them giving permission to electronic communications. So I was over the moon to hear that. So trust me, we are working very diligently. We're collecting it. We're working with, you know, our medical record system to figure out, you know, what's the best place for that and how can we pull that and extract that from our reports. So yeah, it's going to be right there right now. A lot of it's documentation, you know, going into the member's file and seeing that flag and seeing that indicator that, you know, that is their preference.
Okay. Awesome. And Kelly, it looks like your systems do allow you to kind of toggle or indicate a member's preferred method of contact, and you guys use that for communication methodology as well in terms of uh, reaching out via their preferred method where possible. Oh, wow, that's pretty comprehensive, including days of the week and time of day. Okay. I'm curious, what about other CCOs? What does that look like for you guys? Okay. I mean, it sounds like it sounds like this is a priority in terms of what information that you guys would like to have. And electronic specifically, and meeting members where they're at. It sounds like the methodology for receipt, though, for is primarily through HSAs or some of the other information that gets through via registration. I'm curious if that's standardized across the board. I mean, we have 16 CCOs, so is there anyone else on the call today that can engage in this discussion with us as well? Maybe provide insight to your systems and where we might be able to troubleshoot, problem solve, focus our efforts to improve. Okay. Well, I was trying to allow for a little bit more space for folks to answer. Uh, let's see, Sheila. Yeah, agreed. Yeah. Okay. It does sound like this is something that we want to move forward. I mean, obviously, we live in a digital age, and we need to be able to update our systems appropriately, but also, be more how are we doing things? Is it the most effective? Is it where are we meeting folks where they're at? And so, if there is a gap in receiving this information, we want to be able to fix it. Are there any other ways, again, I'm going to open this up to any other CCOs that are on the call that can provide insight into the information that you receive, how you receive it, and how you leverage that to reach out to members, particularly with regards to phone number, emails, because we will, we'd like to move forward with improvements where we can, but I want to kind of understand more of what everyone's system kind of is probably a little bit different. Okay, well, you all are a very quiet bunch for this kickoff of MEOC 2025. Um, now just opening it up for roundtable discussion. Anything going on that any CCOs or folks would like to bring up at this forum? Lauren, go ahead.
Yeah, hi. This is Lauren from Trillium, and I just wanted to loop back around and let everyone know that we are having our first meeting of the returned mail kerfuffle, as I like to refer to it. But we're having that first meeting this month, and I would like to invite anyone that would like to join our little task force on how to reconcile our return mail issue. If you'd like to join us, we're happy to have you. We will be a small yet mighty group, and please feel free to reach out to me. I will drop my email in the chat, and we would love to have you if you'd like to just come and watch or come and participate. Thank you.
Yes. Awesome, Lauren. Oh, thank you so much. And I'm really looking forward to kind of hearing what you guys come up with. I think that we all kind of the communication there, and then especially with the return mail, that's amazing. So yes, put your information in the chat, and please reach out to Lauren to be part of that group so we can share efforts, really. No need to reinvent the wheel. Right. Lisa, did you have your hand up? Sorry.
Yeah, actually, and I apologize, I must have missed it at some point, but if Lauren, if you could expand just a little bit, because you got my attention.
Oh, of
Love
course,
it.
happy to. Yeah, so a couple of months ago, I got bullseyed to do a CCO spotlight, and I thought, well, we're all doing great things. I don't feel like bragging. I feel like solving. So I brought up the issue of the massive amount of returned mail that we get from our members. And I know that we're not the only ones that suffer this because our source of truth is all the same. So if we're getting bad addresses or no addresses, then I know everybody else is. But what we're trying to solve for is how to reduce that amount of returned mail, and different avenues that we can take. Not only maybe try and convince the state to do a few things a little differently, but also what can we do on our end that can mitigate that, because it's not just oh, look at all this paper that's getting sent out and the cost of the money, but it's also the fact that for every welcome packet that gets returned to us, I guarantee you there's a 75% chance that member doesn't even know that they have Medicaid, because they might have gone to the ER and filled it out there and they processed all the paperwork, but then it just never got to them. So really, I feel like we're just not doing our members a service by not getting them their mail. So yeah, so that's pretty much what we're going to do. We have a couple of ideas, but we want to get the whole think tank together and brainstorm and see what we can do to help resolve the issue for all of us.
Appreciate that. That's a huge, huge issue for us. So we'll be there as well. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, send me your info. Okay. And yeah, I see people adding their information in the chat. I will make sure to add you to the group.
Thank you again for that, Lauren, and thank you for giving that backstory. Yeah, Lauren, presented on behalf of Trillium at our CCO Spotlight a few months ago. And these are great opportunities. I really appreciate the dialogue and the information sharing, because that's how we can solve problems together. And so, yeah, Lauren will be happy to also liaise in our end to see, okay, what are these solutions that are going to work out, especially as you guys dig into maybe some root causes, or shared issues. And I think that also goes back to some of what we were talking a little bit earlier about, the information, receiving it, how you're getting the information, and how we can maybe close some of those gaps to improve that. So thank you again for not only bringing up that information, but also to facilitate that work group and shared ideas with those CCOs.
Absolutely. Abby, I'm
yeah.
excited. I'm excited to see what everybody else comes to the table with.
Yay!
Thank you.
Well, Lauren, be prepared, because I've been fighting this battle for 20 years.
Sheila, we will win this war. Give me a sword and I will win this war for you. But yeah, we're gonna make stuff happen. It's gonna be awesome. Can't wait.
I can take you
all the time.
Yay.
I can take you clear back to those that be 20 years ago. They would still remember me over this fight, I can tell you.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Now we're banding together. We make a mighty wall. So yeah,
this is wonderful.
It's going to be great. 2025 is going to be our year to resolve this issue.
There you go. There you go. I really appreciate you pulling this together. Much
Sure.
appreciated.
No problem at all.
Yes, Lisa.
I put a comment in the chat, but I just wanted to see if you had any insight into it now. With the redetermination program, they had started the member information submission portal. And I know that's not the technical term, and it's escaping me right now. But it's been a huge help where the CCOs could just go ahead and forward that information on the members, updated address, updated language, and then that would be updated. I believe, if I remember correctly, David saying that was time limited, that was maybe you guys got approval to do that for maybe 2 years. I just want to say it has been a huge help. You can see the increase in speed of a member's address being updated on the 834 from that, whereas it used to take quite significantly longer. So that tool has been really instrumental, and I think in this whole conversation, especially us talking about, the returned mail, one of the biggest things are those addresses. So I was just curious if you knew kind of when the end date it was on that, and if there is an option to extend.
Sarah, I can jump in here. And Lisa, I think good news, we are extending that and keeping that data portal open. I think that, we had a contractor who is supporting a portion of that. We've taken that in-house. And so we'll be trying to do that going forward. So that said, things should continue to run as is. If they do not, please reach out to myself, Stephen White. I'll put my email in the chat in case you have it. But if you see any challenges or changes in terms of how that's working from your end, please reach out and let me know. I know we've got a different group of staff doing some different parts of that process. So there might be some glitches, but you all might be in a better position than anybody to see what those glitches are and to communicate them back to us. So.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That really has been a great tool for us. Thank you.
Great. Yes, that's what we've heard. And so that's why I think we decided to remove the end date for doing that. And we'll keep it going forward and try and make it continue to work well.
That's amazing to hear. Awesome. Okay. So just a reminder, we have our next meeting is Tuesday, February 18th. We have a form that you can add agenda requests to. We are also still looking for CCO spotlights on for the month. So please, if you have something that you'd like to spotlight, please let us know. We would love to have you. And even if it's not, hey, we're really doing great at this, or this is our campaign, it can be an issue like what Lauren said with Trillium's return mail situation. Obviously, just bringing that up is, it's sharing so that we have visibility across the board and transparency to say, oh, okay, you're not the only CCO that's encountering this. So how can we band together and problem solve? Anything that you would like to provide, obviously, but we would love to have some more CCO spotlights on. Thank you, Hisela, for adding the agenda request link. For those of you who have been to our MEOC meetings in this last year, we've had CCO spotlights on for various issues in terms of campaigns and outreach and marketing strategies and all sorts of different things. But we would really, really love to have your CCO provide information or share a presentation. So if you haven't been a CCO spotlight on, we would love to have you. Please get in contact with us so that we can have you present at our next MEOC. And then also, again, please submit any issues to us that maybe we want to address going forward in terms of roundtable discussions that may need to occur or that we'd like to discuss a little bit more for improvements. My dogs are very excited about this as well. So please give your feedback. And then, of course, there's the information for our MEOC updates. All right. Short meeting today. But thank you all for your participation and look forward to seeing you in the next one.
Thank you. Bye.